Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Fallout New Vegas. So we finished what I've been calling the Sierra Madre DLC, and we know that there's only two places left on the map. Let's see if I can do this while I'm on the mouse and keyboard. Effectively, there is just dry wells, which is down here, which I can't swim to. You'll just say you can't swim any further, even though you can see it on the map. And then there is the long 15, which you can't access because there's a gate that says it needs a key. Both of these locations, insanely, are unlocked by selecting a specific ending in the Lonesome Road DLC, which I would assume is here. Although it might be this one here. At the very end, you were given the option to nuke the NCR. If you'd done that, you would have unlocked the long 15, and or nuke the Legion. And if you'd done that, you'd unlock the dry wells. Otherwise, there's no way to reach those locations legitimately, and as such, you are just insanely locked out. So we have to use the console command to cheat, so that's why I'm on a keyboard. And there's two ways to unlock the locations. One is to type in the number, one is to type in letters. I've seen it both ways. I think letters makes more sense, so the command is COC, which I would assume is complete all quest or open all quest, console open quest. No, because then that would be Q. So I have no idea what COC stands for. NVD as in Nevada, then DLC, NVDLC, and then it's labeled as 04, which technically I guess means that is the Lonesome Road is the fourth bit of DLC. Then it's nuke, N-U-K-E, capital N. Then the NCR, all capitals. Then E-N-T-R-A-N-C-E. So, New Vegas DLC 04, nuke NCR entrance. Enter. And so that has teleported me to the long 15, which is not what I was expecting in any mains at all. So let's look at the long 15. Now, what I suspect is here is not much of anything. I suspect that this is just a here's the aftermath of your horrific decision. And I would say the game itself, I don't know why that happened, would ever really have felt like you would have nuked the place. You would have had to tell a very different story, certainly, as far as what kind of character you are and what kind of game it was if it was just all about nuking places. And probably you would have had to abstract it quite a bit and not make it a okay, flashlight's doing absolutely nothing here with this dusty overtone of the screen. Looks horrible. Yeah, if this was just like a top-down strategy game where you're nuking locations like Plague Inc. or I know there's one game from many decades ago that was like that, where you shoot nukes off in different countries. Yeah, I could see getting into that more morbid mentality, but to have it be a role-playing game and have you heavily encouraged to play as the good guy, it just doesn't seem like that's likely going to happen. I should also mention that I was at the Gunrunner's Arsenal, and as far as I can tell, I have bought every single weapon at the Gunrunner's Arsenal and every single mod. There are a couple of mods that it seems like either procedurally or just by default you end up getting it twice, and like this baseball bat needs a Gunrunner's Arsenal baseball bat that I've never found, which definitely makes me think that those are hidden throughout the world in part 2. But yeah, I do think that the Gunrunner's Arsenal DLC edition of adding guns has been completely broken now at the end of the game, and that there's just no reason for it to really exist in the first place, because, you know, all it did was upgrade the damage of a lot of guns that frankly were just not going to be viable anyways. Let's see, this may very well just be a radiation spot where there's nothing to really see or do other than to just see some level of devastation. There would have to be kind of a massive amount. Let's go ahead and take some radiation. Rad-X. Increase our radiation defense. So even if this was... Okay, we do have an enemy. It is shooting lasers at me, so my chainsaw desires are once again going to be destroyed. And we have just an irradiated heavy trooper. And here we have a glowing trooper ghoul. And our mysterious strangers are happening quite a bit, and what is her name? Misfortune. Okay, well, I was going to use the Fat Man, and this is as good of a place as any to use it. So, as I was breaking the Gunrunner's Arsenal, I wanted to see, like, how many of these we could purchase, and it's not a lot, honestly. And there's a high chance of just becoming over encumbered. I think that blew up in my face, hitting the fence more than it actually hit that guy. If anything, I think that highlights where this mini nuke in general just isn't really that viable in your normal day-to-day experiences. you're just going to be hitting too many people. Here you have a shadow of somebody. Now there's no quest around any of this at all. This is just see the outcome. What you did. And yep. We can only make it worse here by here we have a colonel named character, which you would never possibly have on your side, as far as I can tell. And the audio is clipping out every time I come into a menu. Yeah, the thing with it is certainly a case where it's like healing. And I'm surprised radiation doesn't just heal them completely. It wouldn't make a lot of sense. Let's see. Yeah. If anything, I guess maybe this would have been a thought of what the highest level of difficulty is. Right now I'm playing on normal. If I was playing on very easy, I would assume this would be easier. Yeah. I have, with these Fat Man grenades, only a small number of things left. See, I can see Mentats there. It's a lot of work to get over to that spot. And see, I don't even really think that this is too much of a thought around the idea of having you being over encumbered. Unlike the end of the casino run, which is more of a scenario where it is designed that you can't actually carry the 35 gold bars that weighed, at least for me with my perks, 70 pounds each. There's just no way you were going to carry those items and run out of the casino the long way with all of the shields blocking you. That being said, it is worth mentioning that I did look it up online. There is a cheaty way to do it. You have to effectively take all the gold bars and prepare them by putting them next to one of the shields and then shotgunning the gold bars so they are halfway through the shields after you drop them on the floor and in front of the shield. Then you run unencumbered all the way around very fast. It's still going to be a tight run, and then you can pick it up on the other side and be over encumbered for just the last few seconds. There are certainly some valid questions to be asked as far as you nuke all of this. Would this really have stopped the NCR? Definitely would have slowed them down, but if you nuke both sides, I don't know how much it would have even slowed him down. I'm not sure if that ash pile is something I created, or if that ash pile is something. And I imagine you can't open this door and into the helicopter. Yep. Not really seeing a lot of junk in this area, so it's not like it's trying to give you any special items or any crafting items. I guess this irradiated trooper was holding a nice big weapon. And if I ran into any real problems, I probably could use the Big Mountain DLC teleporter to leave this area if I was actually any real danger. But the game is over effectively, so it's funny, it's spinning around here. This does point me, weirdly getting pointed in a direction just because I had the cursor there. I don't know what the red is all about. So we had an irradiated trooper there, hiding. And now he's just blown to bits. Which that certainly explains the whole bits element of this game a little bit better. Yeah, looking at the local map, unless I missed something really important here, which I think I didn't. I think you're just gonna kind of walk around the edges. And with that, we are out. Tiny tots? Nope. Certainly that could be the grenade in Fallout games. That you would just have this experience where you, when tough times get tough, you would throw a grenade. And see, those were the tiny tot nukes, which I assume means that those are like the smallest of the nukes, and I would say they still are not small enough. It's important to point out you could cheat. Certainly. You could cheat in many ways. You could give yourself lots of gold to buy more nuke bombs. You could just give yourself a bunch more nuke bombs. Whoops. Okay, so yeah, the nukes are an issue, certainly, in that.
Welcome, sir or madam.
In that you
I
can
am
just
ready
blow
to
yourself up. You just wouldn't really expect that to be the case. See, the thing here I want to point out is that I've sold a lot of like perfect quality guns here, and some of them are like duplicate mods too, and that makes it kind of difficult to know if you've bought everything. Some of these definitely have like one mod when they should have 2 mods or 3 mods on them. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I've bought all of those once. The same is kind of true with all of these mods. Here's 2 of the 3 gold bars I got from the Sierra Madre DLC at 11,000 caps each. And then the ammo is the really weird part about this, because just trying to have Fat Man ammo and actually use it is really difficult. It does feel like this refills, but it also feels like you have to be incredibly far away from where you want to be. Let's see.
Come back and see us again soon.
So, since I died there and since it didn't save, I would have to type in the command again to get to that spot and look around some more. I suppose we should do that. Although the more interesting thing would be to... Yeah. Well, thank goodness it just saved the typing. Alright. So let's say you equipped this, and then this time you took a big kid. Let's just say we shot it any of that direction. Let's see. Should have bought some Rad-X somewhere, but I don't really have a spot for it. This will save us some time because we're not over encumbered now. But yeah. Particularly in like a Borderlands type game, you could have a gun like this, but it would be much smaller explosions. That would definitely be your thought, is to just have much smaller explosions. And you can see how the chainsaw there is either going through fuel when you just manually do it, and it just takes way longer than using VATS. All of this to simply get to what looks like maybe just a collection of a lot of stuff. But I suspect none of it is particularly important, like one-of-a-kind items. And certainly I could teleport to and from this location multiple times. This just looks like this would be an instant death. This is just... Here you can see exactly where the nuke fell. I suspect there's not even anything there. I would assume that the location of items and things around here are perhaps more hand-placed. The real question certainly just comes down to, like, alright. There is definitely an argument to maybe not probably hotkey these, come to think of it. That one, and then that one. The animation is totally broken on these things. To chainsaw attacks. See, I just kind of want to look around. Getting a Gatling laser is nice and all. Getting a ton of ammunition. I do just heavily question though, is it realistic to believe you would ever reach this area at a point where you would actually need any of this stuff? Or would this just be, we know you've beaten the whole game, so let's just let you goof around some? Definitely not picking up as much this time around. It's worth mentioning that electric phaser rifles and guns like that are just like drastically changing the importance of the other weapons. Whereas nukes in a Fallout game, just by the nature of it being called Fallout, feel like they should be the most important weapons, that they should be more commoditized in the sense that they just show up way more often, and they should be your grenade equivalent, but they should be also very powerful and maybe have longer lasting impact overall. But yeah, they aren't really doing that. Instead, very early in the game, you're given this option to find plasma rifles and electric weapons that are way more valuable. So here you can see the difference in visuals. And my question I would want to ask is, are any of these people upset with me for making this? It seems like, at least by using the cheating codes, the answer to that is no. I mean, I am literally wielding a chainsaw like a lunatic in this area. And certainly that's a thing where an intimidation factor might play a better role, where you might be treated differently based on the weapons and the outfits you equip more. Although they tried to do that with faction armor in this game, and it really didn't lead to much. Something just fell over. It's just a mercenary. Inherently, with the game.
Hey there, need anything?
With the game broken as much as it is, there's not a lot that I could do. Like, perhaps you could buy more caravan cards if that didn't crash the game. Perhaps you could take some of these low quality weapons and use them to create higher quality weapons. Perhaps we can figure out why, like, yeah, most of these are just items that I sold to the, they are straight up just items I sold to this guy to try and get some weapons back. And like this tri-beam laser rifle and anything that's Gunrunner's arsenal really should be more in my inventory, whereas outfits don't matter so much, and none of this really matters, even though maybe some of it could be translated into some kind of item of value. Let's see. I'm not sure what I can really even sell. I honestly have not that much left. There still is some economics here where you would have to grind out quite a bit. So I may literally not have anything I can sell. Okay, pre-war money. Pre-war money saved the day there. Still, I am over encumbered. Still, I would have to do this. Go in here. And then, for timing's sake, we will just drop everything that I wasn't planning on holding on to. Notice I've got a lot of explosive weapons on me at the moment. So it should be pretty obvious that I want to use explosive items. And then none of this armor is likely going to be better than what I'm already wearing. And then I really shouldn't have too much in my inventory otherwise. which is leaving me confused as to why is everything so heavy. In a lot of ways, I probably didn't weigh out what I was holding particularly well. Varmint rifle is another weapon. Let's see. Chainsaw. We used it. It didn't work very well. Anti-material rifle. We used it. It didn't work very well. Batman. Unarmed might even be a choice. Okay, so then the next thing we would do to see the other thing, which is going to just be the same, just the Legion this time, which means maybe the chainsaw will be slightly more useful. Same command, COC, and I bet the exact same NVDLC. I'll just assume that part is the same. And I'll even go as far as assuming that much is the same. Let me open my web page that has the command. Yep. It's even easier. It's just capital L, Legion 01. Legion 01. And I'll plug my controller back in and swap out to a chainsaw. Just wait till he gets closer. It definitely seems like one hit is all your action points can handle. Look at that chainsaw fly completely over. Misfortune is terrible, though, as the way she's just visually depicted. Like, no offense to her, really, appearance really, but it is definitely not good. The kill screen's interesting on that. And that was the end of that ammo. If anything, one might expect that the whoops. But what I wanted to do actually, while we're here, is let's see if we can teleport ourselves from one DLC to another. Yes, you can. No problem with that at all. that's probably the best time the camera has actually gotten an image of her, and now the game is just taking a long time to calculate, so it's just stuck in this mode. He's knocking back. And he's like healing. See, these guys are like really tough looking. My action points are just really low. And here we have Gaius Magnus. This guy just doesn't even want to move. He's throwing things at me. And that Gaius Magnus has the armor of the 87th tribe, so maybe there was possibly some named item that we could have picked up. We're out of ammo. Do we have any better weapons now? Why? Like... Here you have an invisible radiated warrior using a stealth boy. would just have to mad dog a lot of these characters if they with a chainsaw. Just totally insanely run towards them. Yeah, I'm not really expecting there to be a lot of building or infrastructures around this. My assumption is that this would either be a town that was taken over or buildings that were being occupied by the Legion, or that there would be just tents. The idea of high-tech gun cases and NCR cases only makes sense if the Legion somehow stole that stuff, because the Legion's not that sophisticated. Here we can see I'm getting a lot of radiation as I get closer to that spot. Doing this in retrospect, now that you see it, is not really killing that many people compared to the numbers of Legion and potentially NCR, depending on how you play, you would end up killing throughout the course of this game. So if this was the way to create a new Vegas that was a new Vegas, I guess, that was free of both the tyranny of the NCR and the Legion by letting the land be more isolated, this might be a slightly kinder way to do it. Just one big nuclear strike, which is definitely the arguments that the United States and the real world made when they dropped the atomic bombs on Japan, is that if they had to do a full-on invasion to defeat them, which seemed to be plan B, they would have ended up killing a lot more Japanese people. I think even the Japanese people at the time had that same feeling that they were going to all be told by the emperor to commit suicide rather than admit defeat. And of course, if you did do these nuclear bombings in the storyline early, then maybe Mr. House would have said, "Oh, good job." But it is just such an odd option. It definitely feels like this would have been your final choice at the very ending of the main game, is are you going to drop nukes on the Mojave Desert to irradiate it and just keep the strip safe. In the long run, it's not a good plan. That's important to point out, because in the long run you are just further isolating the Mojave from the rest of the world, keeping it segregated from resources and people and communication. I guess the question also to ask here is, how does one leave this area? And we have a very gory head, exploded skull. Just way too much gore happening there. I think I've seen pretty much everything. Let's see. First of all, let's do some rat away so we don't end up accidentally dying. We missed a big square in the middle, or there is just nothing in this square in the middle. I wouldn't be surprised if I did just, in a almost perfect straight line, walk this way, walk this way, walk this way, walk that way. It looks like there might be basically nothing over here, nothing over there. Yeah. I expect that there would be a boat. That you could activate to leave. Either that, or it is just swimming while being over encumbered. Which that doesn't sound particularly appealing to me. So I think I would just use the big mountain teleporter. This game has been incredibly buggy, incredibly glitchy. And yeah, this is probably our last episode. I don't think there's anything else to do that I can think of. I think I've made my feelings on the game overall pretty obvious that I don't feel like this is as good of a game as Fallout 3. I don't know if there wasn't simply a case here where fans of Fallout 3 liked the slight change of pace and thus decided that they wanted to this direction as far as swimming. Need to put on the rebreather if I'm going to do this. And the flashlight not really doing anything for you. It is just deep, dark, possible to see waters. Being over encumbered doesn't inherently mean you sink to the bottom. As far as I could tell, it looks to me like I'm a little surprised that there's even this much of a map. It just seems like that's a... Yep, that's the... You can't swim any further in this direction prompt. Perhaps it was a thought. Yeah, what you want here is you want to go right slightly downward before the algae bloom effect is activated. If you can just find that perfect angle, you can see everything fairly well. So at some point I suspect they maybe thought you were going to start on the other side of this river. Yeah, the DLC admittedly has improved the game quite a bit, and I am willing to give some credence to things I've heard as far as turning on wild wastelands as a trait at the very beginning of the game, and I can definitely testify that you probably should be playing it on something higher than very easy. There is you're just not really getting the real experience, and it's probably not saving you more than a few hours. Maybe I saved 5 to 7 hours of gameplay in what is probably 200 hours of gameplay by playing on very easy. I probably would have died a lot more. There is still an argument to playing on hardcore on very easy instead of playing on very easy with hardcore off, if you are going to play that way. And that would give you a different experience. But I don't know if I really believe that the hardcore mode really would have changed too much, other than it would have just justified what is a massive amount of food and liquids that you pick up and the massive amount of beds you see. So there's no swimming to leave this area. So I'd almost expect the flag to be something. And here you can see there's another big empty section. Of course you could just fast travel to reach that location now, and you would have been able to go to those locations. I'm not sure if there's a storyline experience where it automatically teleports you to those locations or not, but had you actually nuked these things. Of course, this is a very far cry away from what you would have experienced in Fallout 3 with Megaton City, where that destroys a important location where trade and your house, one of your houses is. It isn't just a small section. Plus, you're not getting that opposite effect in this, where you could have reached these locations if you got a very high level of loyalty with the NCR or the Legion, and that there would have been things. I half expect this flag to be your teleportation spot. Everything in the game would point to the dock being your teleportation spot. It's probably not the dock, it's probably this boat. But the boat is activatable. It is. So we also irradiated Cottonwood Cove. So this location is much closer to Megaton City in that and I would still assume that this raft here takes you always to the main game Legion location, and there's no reason why it would take you to Dry Wells or pop up a menu saying, do you want to go to Dry Wells? Nope, this raft does nothing. Is it faster to swim than it is to walk? Well, it does feel like it is faster to swim than it is to walk. You can see something flickering in this general direction. So this isn't activatable. This isn't activatable. This isn't activatable. I'd assume maybe there was a boat the very first time. If you'd done this legitimately, that would have been on this smaller platform. Right. So I have exactly one last thing. Well, maybe two last things I want to do. Let's start by teleporting. That didn't take me to the right place. Teleporting here. Then we will go ahead and displace this. Let's see. What I might also want to check is just take all these auto-inject stim packs with me. It's not a terrible thought. And then the rest of this, I don't think needs to really be dealt with. You're not getting a lot of crafting items, certainly, around this. Okay. So, mini nukes timed. Mini nukes. Big kids. One would assume that the big kids versus the mini nuke do more damage. Okay. So, there is one inherent. I'll just make a safety save first before we do this. Question that we never asked. We never tried, but it feels as valid of a way to potentially try and solve the Mr. House and the robots problem here. We never tried to figure out how strong these guys are. So they don't seem that strong. Compared to nukes, at least. That is adding radiation to the area, which is what I would expect. Alright. And so, like that, even with the military upgrades, the Securitron threats are gone. They don't have too much on them. But now all the free side in my own head cannon. Notice there's a lot of them just got destroyed completely. In my head cannon there is free side is now free to enter this area. So, the humans fleeing for their lives, which is reasonable. No, it's not really getting any karma for this. So my relationship with the strip has gone down because of doing that. So the strip citizens seem to like the Securitrons. Notice that in pretty much any other game, doing this level of chaos would have people screaming, would have alarms going off. I am getting XP for doing this. Certainly. But even on like normal difficulty, this is not undoable at the end of the game with very high armor. Of course, a good question to ask is, does this leave the strip open permanently, or am I going to just walk through a door and see more Securitrons appear out of nowhere? If it was like other places, it probably would just be that the bodies would stay around. This is certainly something that could have been a post-game quest. If these weren't Mark IIs, then they wouldn't be shooting missiles at me. Interesting. This one is not aggroed on me. Yep, and they just respawn. So you cannot liberate the strip from the tyranny of the Securitrons and let Freesiders in if you want to. So yeah, pretty obviously this is just not a ending that they were expecting for the player to go for. You can see my armor is getting in dangerous locations. It seems like they might even be manually programmed to disengage. Let's see. Penthouse? Let's go see what the penthouse would look like. We're just going to start attacking things.
Unacceptable. Unacceptable behavior has been noted. Unacceptable. Unacceptable behavior has been.
This highlights an issue, certainly, if you're just desperately trying to get XP too, is that you inherently are going to become this evil. These are just statues. You're going to inherently become this evil character that is just going to attack everything for XP, and at a certain point, if you don't want to play that way, you're just going to have to go give yourself XP or wander around. So, did we find all the snow globes? From the looks of it, the answer to that is no. This is not interactable. If we would have talked to Veronica, let's see, we could say we found Elijah.
You did? Where? Oh my god, I mean, I thought... I don't even know what I thought might have happened to him. But you don't have a "this is good news" expression on your face.
I had to trap him inside a pre-war prison. He's trapped. There's no chance of him escaping. He's dead.
It doesn't matter. He died when we all retreated to Hidden Valley. I didn't expect to see him again. No one did. Did he say anything when you met him? Anything at all? Where did you get this? Guess I was right about the bad news, huh? Same look Elder McNamara always gave me when I was up for promotion.
Let's just go. Let's see.
Yeah. Thought as much. He'd been fading away for a long time. Would you mind if I looked at the message? That was hard to watch.
So she just watched it? She didn't even walk away or fade out or anything?
The parts I understood didn't matter. Past all the garbage, all it amounted to was goodbye. Sorry. Feel a little out of it. Head's spinning a bit. Oh! I think he left me a gift. Maybe I can use it better than he did.
So, secret melee weapon technique that increases our attack by 150% and gives our chance to knock down enemies.
See you around.
So that was from the Sierra Madre DLC.
Well, now look.
And then I imagine there isn't really anybody else. This vending machine never refilled. Yeah, I don't think there's anybody else to really talk to.
Oh.
The fact that he can't repair anything without you being in here. It's been a long time since I've used the Lucky 38 as a point of use. Eddie should have some new features.
Is it time?
Well, then I imagine Lily.
Doesn't like that you left that house, man.
So we have all of our companions here. So since we're doing the bad guy path, the thought here would be to see what we can do here. what I'm looking for is potential failed quests. As far as they are not reacting at all to this when they really should. Power armor protecting him quite well. Not getting a massive amount of XP for killing your companions. This feels like this is pretty much the only way that your companions also could die, is by your own cruel hands. Very gory ways. And so we can't like devour and eat with our cannibalism, even the companions. I just don't think you can devour or eat anything unless your health is lower. And there's... I guess you could have used Poison Cloud to maybe hurt yourself and reduce your health. Or you could have reduced your... radiation. Turned up the radiation to reduce your health. That's what I mean to say. But yeah, that's all the companions that are here dead. Snow Globes, immortal. So I did just miss one of the DLCs. Wouldn't be surprised if it was the Sierra Madre DLC and one of the world locations, which if I was using walkthrough I would have gotten all of those. But you only get 2,000 caps for the Snow Globes. They're really poorly added to the game, and I would easily say, hey, let's not just do what Fallout 3 did with bobbleheads and make them snow globes instead, which is kind of funny in the desert to make snow globes. Let's instead just have, let's see, this is 7 plus 4, 11 items of unique styles of weapons. Like a unique, very powerful, very upgradable handgun, a unique, very powerful, very upgradable knife, shotgun, rifle, automatic rifle, sniper rifle, being 2 separate categories. That would be what I would like to, what I would have preferred them to do, and just have more of a focus on that. No new Securitrons spawned in this area. More Securitrons did spawn in this area, but they don't seem like they are aggro on me, which is going to help me, I think, a little bit. Really all I'm doing here is getting rid of my frustrations as far as how glitched this game is. None of that stopped these 3 quests from happening by killing any of the companions, which, in fair enough, that does make some sense, that the companions quest probably have already all been done. Of course, this isn't the save file I would keep. We are just playing as the bad guy to show how broken the system really is as far as playing as a bad guy. Like, it really is more of a situation where you should, if you're going to play slightly as a bad guy, you still should pretend to be a good guy through 80 to 90% of the game. Now this guy's been mad at me because my relation wasn't high enough to finish a quest for a long time, so if he rejects me once more, I'm going to cut off his head.
What?
Why on earth would you think you can walk
This
in here and
reaction
make troop
and line
deployment
of dialogue
recommendations to me?
is particularly
Bye.
irritating. And that finishes the not so much quest.
What have you done?
Of course, the real thought here let's go ahead and switch to a regular gun. Yep, and that's pretty boring, so tin can grenades. See, I think I may have made a Gunrunner's Arsenal quest move forward because I killed a specific general, which maybe that would be a situation where you could get some more challenges done.
I can't find anything.
So suffice it to say that doesn't increase your relationship with the NCR. To do that.
Check your fire.
But yeah, just gaining infamy with the NCR. Let's see. See if we can get a paralyzing punch here. And just see what unarmed combat really is like, even at 100 stats. It is pathetically bad. I mean, you inherently you should maybe play the first couple of hours of the game with no weapon, or unarmed combat should just not be a thing at all, which I would argue probably should just not be a thing at all. Seems like I may be out of stim packs. at this point. Auto injects stim packs overall that I am out of. Interesting, reputation too low to use the radio. Let's see. This guy's...
You need to get your head straight. If you're fighting for us, act like it.
This guy's not even attacking me. See, the weird thing here, too, is if I wanted to blow up the Hoover Dam, which would have been an option, this would be a lot of people to kill all at once. Yeah, I don't think you can just blow up the generators by shooting those. And there's a great example of like a character that's named that never gave us any quests. You would think every named character would come with some kind of quest. And with that, the game has crashed. And you know what? That's kind of the perfect place to end this. I've mostly been goofing around. I can say I've done 57 out of the 75 achievements on Steam. And I, either by glitch or otherwise, would not really be able to finish the rest of the quests. There are undoubtedly console commands that could be used to complete all quests. We should do that one. Yeah. That would be at least somewhat interesting as far as seeing how many quests. Complete all quest command.
You like that? Come on! Get some! Had enough?
So this is a really good rifle. It's not really too much on the quartermaster. See, this is the one I suspect will get me somewhere. Hoover Dam key. Quest failed for the Republic Part 2. Failed. Quest completed. Failed. Don't tread on the bear.
Over here! What have you done?
I am now a terrorist. I am going to be shot on sight.
Get some!
And yeah, no reason not to steal at this point. Although it's still weird that stealing affects you overall. There we go.
I'm out of here.
Alright, well that fixes that issue. I was gonna think maybe we could get down to the power plant. I mean, it actually wouldn't be. I should just drop some stuff, actually. There we go. So it's just a whole bunch of engineers.
Just getting jumpy, I guess. Just getting jumpy, I guess.
There might be a few more security people. You can see them teleporting out.
This is hopeless.
Trying to see. See, at this point, I don't think I have the right thing. I don't think I have a bug. Destroy. The Hoover Dam.
Murderer.
Yep, I haven't gotten the bug from Yes Man. So this is another ending to the game, effectively, where I have created a scenario where, man, have I never even gone this direction?
I'm out of here.
The leadership of both the Legion, to some extent, and the leadership of the NCR has been reduced. There is a whole section here. Let's see if we could maybe toggle God mode on and see if we can unlock a door here. Since this would be interesting, I'm looking at the console commands. So let's scroll down here. I could also certainly have adjusted my CAQS is the one to experiment with, but we'll deal with that in a second. Unlock. Well, that's straightforward. Straightforward enough command. Hmm. So, not really sure what the whole deal of that is. And inherently, I'm gonna have to try and figure out what key would be jump. Or I'm gonna have to plug in a controller. I guess the lesser of that would be to simply plug in a controller. The wall, I think, is supposed to stop me. Yep, there's just an invisible wall here. So I don't get it. I don't get it at all as far as what's supposed to happen there. See if we can. So there's just like a whole section where you can see the plant, but you can't actually reach. And I would chalk this up to, once again, just feeling like the game is unfinished. And maybe there's just no programming in this. Seems like you can definitely get up here. Seems like you can definitely get here. So is there possibly a console command that would turn off clipping? There definitely is a way here where you could get your special up to all 10s. There definitely is a way here you could give yourself a massive amount of XP. You could give yourself every single perk in the game. It would take a lot of time, and I would argue that there is probably a better way to just use a mod to get to that. And frankly, the mod would just kind of ruin the whole experience anyways. TGC might be one to try. It doesn't seem like there really is a no clip option, but we can experiment here just to try to understand this better. And of course, if you're playing this on console, none of this would be available to you. TGC. Nope, it's not TGC. Script command TGC not found. What was it that I just saw? The toggle game collision. TCG. Backwards. Okay. So this is showing that there is some game collision here that actually exists. I think we can take from that that there is a wall here. That looks really weird, but it also kind of is a great example of where the wireframing of all of this would go. As far as just how much more simplified that is. There is also a TWF for toggle wireframe to show what the wireframe whole element of this world would be, which, yeah, that does imply that there's a building. But you know why this feels all fake to me, though? Complete all quests is the final one we're gonna do. Is that the map isn't showing any entrances or exits. Okay. So, ones we couldn't do when a house always wins lockdown. We probably already missed one. Caesar's dialogue. This is just a great example of what you couldn't have done just playing one way. Return to sender. Return to the fountain. I have no idea what that one would have even been. That probably has to do with one of the casinos. The No Gods, No Masters quest, we never started that one. That would have been Jacobstown, I imagine. Eyesight to the Blind. Maybe a Jacobstown quest. Maybe something we totally missed because we missed some cave somewhere or something. The Et Tumor Brute. Another Legion quest. Back in your own backyard. That probably is a strip quest. I have no idea what variables for the whitewash would have been. Generally, by default, I'd assume these are all Legion quests. Apparently, there's two versions of that quest. It might be that some of these quests are actually just not accomplishable. Yeah, it also might be that some of these quests are DLC quests that we missed. We are Legion, obviously a Legion quest. Quest added Vault Gear. Why was the quest added Vault Gear when this should be completing all the quests? I have no idea what Arizona Killer would have been, although it sounds like that might have been a boon quest. You can see the spinning around animation here failing, as the camera itself is not allowed to pass the window. Yeah, open game or not, role-playing game or not, it is just insane to have so much content that is just completely inaccessible to people based on how they decide to play, regardless of how they decide to play, whether it's good, neutral, bad, or in some other way, siding with Legion, siding with NCR, siding with Mr. House, siding with Benny, siding with Yes Man, siding with none of them. Vance's Gun, I guess, was a quest. I kept trying to find that quest. Yeah, 200 hours into this game, roughly, and there's probably another 80 hours, I would guess, worth of content that I could have had that could have been better experiences overall. Compare this to something like Borderlands, where every single quest is doable in Borderlands. There's no good or evil neutral path that can be taken there at all. It is just a straight linear journey. It is a scripted journey. It feels like a movie, and surprisingly, there is a Borderlands 1 movie, or Borderlands movie, that I assume is going to heavily be connected to these events of Borderlands 1, or at least slightly connected. And yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Whereas Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas have been out there as a story for years, over a decade, and there's only been Amazon Prime willing to make any kind of movie or TV based on it, and in Amazon Prime's option, they set it in the Fallout universe but told a completely new story, not really making any reference to any of the Fallout stories. They're making some Easter eggs references, I guess, to Fallout universe in general in the first Fallout games. Yep. I definitely feel like the Amazon Prime TV series was made by people who had a lot more fandom and love for the first and second Fallout games, not made by Bethesda, and maybe they were reinvigorated by Fallout 3, and maybe there is an audience that was definitely reinvigorated by New Vegas just because of the timing of it. But in contrast, like in present day, when you could have the ability to play Fallout 3, then New Vegas, then Fallout 4, and you can play Fallout Shelter, and you can play Fallout 76, New Vegas just isn't going to be high priority in that list of games. We are still seeing a lot of quests, which this heavily makes me suspect what it's doing here is that it has several chains that have been programmatically made in the way that quests go. So it is going down one quest, which then would have started another quest, which would have gone into a new quest. And certainly some of these quests are programmed to fail you on other quests. So it feels like it's just going in circles. And as a debug option, this is crazy. Like, there's just no reason to do all this and sit here and see all the quests complete. Like, it would make a lot more sense to simply have a save file for debugging in which all the quests are completed. And all the quests being completed, I don't understand how that would make debugging really any better or easier. Vault 74. Did we even find a Vault 74? Did we miss an entire vault in this game? I don't think so. We probably found a Vault 74. I'll check the map just to make sure. A lot of the actions of a lot of these quests probably were done in my playthrough. They just weren't things that I imagine started. They weren't quests that I managed to start. A big part of that is probably because I didn't listen to the radio and listen for new quests to start. Still, I'd like to know what the Whitewash quest was. Chaos in Zion is another quest I would potentially would have liked. Yeah, we've been sitting here for several minutes And as far as I can tell, it's just finishing the quest. It's not actually giving me XP. And this would be a very long way to just jump into the credits. And I wonder what kind of ending you would actually get. Would you get the perfect ending? Would you get a neutral ending? Or would you get a negative ending if you went to the credits? It definitely is a case where I don't think I'll be playing Fallout 4 anytime soon. This game has not invigorated me into wanting to do that. And in retrospect, I probably would have enjoyed it more if I had played Fallout 4. And I will say, from the screenshots and from the amount of polish and patching they've done to Fallout 4, and it just being a much more modern game, you probably will have a better experience in Fallout 4. But I'm not sure. Well, I'm definitely not in the mood to play another post-apocalyptic game. If I was going to play something anytime soon, I'd probably want it to be a more run-and-gun shooter, shorter experience. Anyways, something like Stalker or the Metro Exodus, the Metro series. Give those a try. But in reality, after putting 200 hours into a role-playing game, it's time to play something completely different. By far, just something light and easy, something that is more fun and less of an OCD collectathon. Which, yeah, games like this are eventually going to cause for some kind of regulation, where there are going to be big government warning stickers on games that say this game in particular encourages repetitive, potentially time-wasting behavior, unproductive behavior, obsessive compulsive collectathon behavior that is just not going to be good for young kids to do, and for even older adults to do. Yeah, I don't think we'll get into any regulations in the United States, but yeah. So you stand here. We can see this far into the map. And this would be Hoover Dam Tower. Hoover Dam Tower. So that was all the quests completed. Although, noticeably, that started quite a few quests too. So I almost wonder if running that command a second time wouldn't finish a bunch of them. So yeah, I question what's the benefit of having that. These guys are no longer mad at me, even though they said I'd be shot on sight. The game is moving incredibly unsmoothly now. When I try to bring up that menu. Once I got out of that menu though, it seems to be alright. Was there anything in here that the colonel would have had locked, like a safe? Would have been in her desk and... Nope.
Can you believe they tried killing our president? Don't they know who they're dealing with?
I've got you now. Got enough?
So this is power plant 1. And I guess the question would be, were there any other doors that were locked that might be interesting to unlock? Not really. Right, so this is supposed to be power plant 3. Well, I thought we were just in power plant 3. Oliver's compound. Who's Oliver? Yeah, this is crazy that there would just be an entire yeah, it's crazy that there would potentially be an entire Oliver's compound. Unlock. Click. Door unlocked. So what's the point of having a console command when the console command can just ignore you completely? Yeah. Explain that one to me. Oh, there went my mouse. So I don't know if there was supposed to be maybe some kind of quest that went there, or if that is just unfinished content. And I'm desperately wasting time here just to try to see if there's maybe something more interesting here. See, I don't know if there was a real way you could break these and interact with them from here. I feel like there was supposed to be some kind of way you could break it, but maybe not. Nothing here really looks interactable. It really would make sense that you might be able to do something here instead of it being a pointless waste of space. Just another unfinished section. Oh yeah, and you really have to hand it to this game for being annoying as far as just the whole karma system and never being able to pick up the items you want to pick up, never really being able to play the game quite the way you would like to play it. I would assume the reason this all exists is because this just really does exist in the Hoover Dam. I would assume that there were some 3D modelers, or site scouts perhaps, who went on a vacation to the Hoover Dam and took a whole bunch of photos. And then at a certain level, I question whether the level of detail you could have gotten through photos or 3D modeling would have been any value to the Hoover Dam themselves. Whereas nowadays, at the very least, if you were to implement the idea of 3D scanning a location like the Hoover Dam, you could at the very least use those 3D scans for more than just making video games. This would be a nightmare to try and leave the whole area. Not because people would be attacking me, that's not a real problem, but just because it's just going to be a lot of doors, a lot of different directions. This game has way too much decoration to it. I'm surprised I even made it outside. What's interesting here, we found the burned man, so we inherently know we're not going to find the body of the burned man in this water. And I imagine you won't be able to find a location that would let you get up on the side here. And then there's also a wall. If you could get up on this side, that would be a whole another location. Yeah. Maybe there was some thought to doing that. Maybe Oliver's compound gets you to the other side of the Hoover Dam, or was going to get you to the other side of the Hoover Dam. I'll be darned. I was not expecting that you could actually reach this location. Although this inherently, now we're just wasting time, particularly in going very long, to just prove that there's, yeah, a lot of locations. Lots and lots of locations that you might find your way into. That in the long run won't matter. Does look like I could probably parkour my way up to those spots, but there's no doors here. Each of these are not marked as accessible. Although I suspect that's exactly the same kind of doors that I just came out of. Yeah. So the difficult part here is going to be finding a Vault 74. I guess if we look for the Vault logo, that might help. Being labeled as a terrorist around every NCR location, there's Vault 11, would totally ruin your experience. Vault 19. Vault 22. Yeah, a Vault 74 almost would have to be in some DLC. All the numbers around here are low, and the 74 implies that it would be very far to the east, because the numbering system definitely feels like it was a case of starting on the west coast and moving to the east coast. Yeah. Only other vault I can think of would be found like one somewhere generally around this area. Where was it? It really wasn't that high up, was it? Vault 11. Maybe it wasn't a fast travel. Well, one of the problems here too is it could very well be that it is like the Coyote mines, but then the mines lead into a vault. That's a possibility. Lucky Gem Mine. You would think they would just label it as a vault, though. And it takes forever to get into that. Okay, well, that is pretty much where this game ends. Like, yes, I could try and finish the game with the main storyline, but I'm not sure I can even actually do that. Through no cheating, I got all of the special stats to this point. Through cheating, you could start with your whole game being special stats at the very beginning on a second playthrough, and you probably wouldn't have too big of a difference. It would just eliminate the chances of failing speech checks and things like that. Through no cheating, I got all the skill points to 100. That does require taking a specific skilled trait, the trait called skilled, which if you did cheat, then you could take a different trait, or just take all the traits if you wanted to. Through no cheating, as far as I recall, I have gotten most of these perks which these perks also include the starting traits, with the exception where I did cheat by resetting myself back to level 1, which, by the way, I'm at level 19 right now, so that tells me that there was a decent amount, almost 20 levels more, that could have been unlocked at the end of this game, and it wouldn't have changed much of anything at all. The only problem with not having a skill cap or a level cap is that your weapons just don't improve the amount of damage they do with each level, so whereas the enemies do, which means, yeah, when I go back to my regular save, my relationship will be a little bit different with some of these factions. A lot of these factions, by the way, we did very little with. There's too many factions, frankly, just because you don't really emphasize enough on any of them. You just don't focus in and say, this is my faction, this is the player I'm going to play as, and then I'm going to play what would probably equate to about 20 other playthroughs where you side with a different faction, that's crazy. Then we have our general quest here that I think is somewhat glitched as far as some of the numbers. I never did get around to exploding somebody's pants. That's still kind of a crazy thing that you even can do. According to this, I never created any weapons. I don't know how you create weapons, if there is a system to that. According to this, I also never consumed water. I don't believe that's true. I never did get a Sandman kill, even though I took that perk. Never ate any corpses, even though I took that perk. Misfortunes was not anywhere as useful as the Mysterious Stranger, and both are kind of wasted perks compared to just carrying items. And I just don't see a way that you're going to play this game without having to carry a bunch of items, even if you're not obsessive compulsive about it. Caravan as a side game is totally pointless and shouldn't be in the game. Roulette, blackjack, slots, same thing can be said there. Here you can see the amount I have traded throughout the entire game is 658,000 caps, give or take a few. And so that's roughly what it takes to break the economy completely. Back in Big Mountain, I have a long list of weapons, very few of which are actually useful. I had hoped to try and use more explosives and fat mans and things like that, but there just aren't the right kind of enemies to even use it on there. I also have a long list of apparel, most of which is useless. A long list of aid items, most of which is useless unless you're playing in hardcore mode and actually have to eat food. A super long list of miscellaneous items, with a significant amount of those items being useless, as far as just you don't even remember where they came from or what quest they might be associated with. On top of that, you have a lot of drained energy cells and empty syringes and just crafting items, which, yeah, an abridged version of a game like Fallout, where there's just less vendor trash and less garbage in there. See, here's the Mount Charleston globe, but for some reason I couldn't figure out how to put it onto the shelf, which means I am missing just one snow globe for what little that's actually worth. Massive amount of ammo, and this was the big thing that New Vegas did, was have different types of ammo, have gun mods. It is definitely systems that are just not implemented well enough to be welcome. Yep. As far as the overall map, as I wrap up my thoughts here, with the Explorer perk, you can see that the overworld map is nice and big, and it is full of fast travel locations. But unfortunately, most of these fast travel locations don't lead to an actual building or anything interesting at all. There is a severe lack of buildings that would act as dungeons where you could go in and clear out 2 or 3 floors. There are some of that, but not a lot of it. The vast majority of the desert is just big empty desert, and that's not even including parts of the map that are just absolutely empty and there only to pretend like the map is bigger. This entire bottom half from, let's see, Good Springs downward, this entire bottom half of the map from this line, which is about half of the map, is fairly lackluster in content and fairly boring, and the top half is not much better. The DLC is much more compact in its level design and much more linear in its storytelling, which just overall gives a much better experience in my opinion. The fact that you have 2 separate miscellaneous groupings, one with miscellaneous quest items, which apparently some of these I never even read. Yep, this would have been really early in the game. The whole HH tools, journal entries, I assume have something to do with Mr. House, but maybe not. There is a massive amount of backstory and reading in this game that just sucks. It's just not my bag, as it were. I'm going to throw that out as an opinion, even though I did just say it very much as a fact. But yeah, it's just not a good experience. Yeah, it really is just not a good experience overall to have to do that much reading. The Sierra Madre DLC in particular is a blatant, terrible, lazy rip-off of Bioshock 1. Lonesome Road is a little roughly written, but much better. The Honest Hearts DLC that is at the beginning of the map here, this Northern Passage, is a pretty decent experience. This Hamstrung being DLC for Fallout when really it should have just been its own separate game. And then Big Mountain, I think by far is the best DLC, not only in that it gives you a better house and a teleporter so you never have to deal with over encumberness in the main game, which you definitely should do on this mountain. I mean, Big Mountain DLC as early as possible. If that's one hint I can give everybody, do Big Mountain's DLC as fast as possible. Pick that up for no reason. So if I shoot this here, it nearly kills me and adds 5 rads. It's just another great example. You can see the radiation, I guess it's dying down now. Will it completely go away? Yeah, it does. So it's a temporary radiation thing. But yeah, I don't want to go into the credits here. Oh yeah, we should also mention just the horrible visuals as far as the darkness. in the game and how the flashlight doesn't really help. That's been plaguing my mind throughout this whole experience. But yeah, I don't think I don't get it. That's what I have to end this series on is I just, now having experienced all of Fallout New Vegas, I don't get the love for it. Like, I could see the love for Skyrim in its multiple re-releases, and in the fact that Skyrim does what it does pretty decently. I can see the love for Fallout 3 a lot more, in that Fallout 3 has very interesting encounters in many places. Maybe too many, maybe it all turns into a blur, but I definitely felt like I had a pretty good experience having only played half the encounters of Fallout 3 the first time I played it, and I feel like I had a pretty great experience playing Fallout 3 the second time when I had all the DLC, so that was even a better experience. But yeah, this being my first playthrough through New Vegas, I just don't get it. Now, the company name, Obsidian, that was supposedly in charge of making all this game, and I imagine they made at least the main game and possibly all the DLC, but maybe not. They have moved on, and they're about to release, as of this recording, a new game called Avowed, which looks a lot more like a fantasy Skyrim-like game. So maybe they'll take a swing at that, and that'll be received particularly well. Meanwhile, as far as the Fallout Amazon Prime TV show, Todd Howard, the person in charge of Bethesda, and seemingly the person in charge of the Fallout license and brand, has said that they have no intention on rushing to make a new Fallout game, and instead they are mostly focusing on just fixing Starfield, their sci-fi space game that's a little bit more realistic, and they're going to try and keep on building and patching that game to see if they can grow an audience there. So even though the TV show was very well received for many months, by the time I'm recording this, people aren't really talking about it anymore. That's going to be true for any TV series. It has not greenlit any projects in Bethesda's camp to make any kind of Fallout side games or any new Fallout games. So you can basically expect a new Fallout game somewhere 6 to 8 years from now, at best. Unless, of course, Microsoft, the owner of the parent company of Bethesda, and thus the owner of Bethesda, also, unless Microsoft decides to hand Fallout to a different department, a different company that they own, which is the right move for Microsoft, frankly, is to have other teams, maybe in secret, working games, making games that are like Fallout games, and then at the last second just telling Todd Howard and ZeniMax and Bethesda, this is going to be called Fallout, and you can't do anything about it because we own you and we're your bosses. Of course, they could throw a fit, and that might be a problem, but if I was Microsoft, I definitely would have 2 or 3 side companies, side development teams working on Fallout games, or working on games like Fallout games. Worst case scenario, you make a game that's like Fallout that's not called Fallout. Anyways, I think that's more than enough talking, and it definitely is more than enough Fallout. So that's going to be it for this series. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos, because that's what YouTube's algorithm asks people to do. Although, who knows if it really helps. I would also point out that I have a playlist tab on my YouTube page that has playlists for every game I've ever covered. Or, yeah, it should. So go and check that out. You could definitely watch the Fallout 3 playthrough. If you want more Fallout, you could definitely watch the Skyrim playthrough. That's probably Skyrim Special Edition, if you're interested in that. I'd also say that I made a lot of comparisons. I was frankly shocked how many comparisons could be made to this game and Borderlands 1. Check out that series, and I think you'll see how Borderlands 1 can be a lot more of a fun experience and less of a grindy experience, and how Borderlands in particular just cut all the fat off the meat to make a game similar without actually ripping off Fallout New Vegas or any Fallout games. Yep, that's it for this series. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.